Hey everybody, it's your boy Strange sitting here in this dimly lit room with you right now, the kind where the shadows are long and the truth hits harder than a late night whiskey. Lean in real close because what I'm about to lay out for you is the raw, unfiltered, no holds barred story of how the greatest Hollywood comeback romance of our lifetime, that second chance fairy tale everyone was rooting for like it was their own damn wedding, turned into one of the most expensive, most ego bruising, most publicly messy divorces we've seen in years. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. Bennifer 2.0, the one that was supposed to prove love wins, that time heals all, that two broken people could finally get it right. Yeah, well, spoiler alert folks, it didn't. And the real reason it collapsed, the money, the ego, the family wars that nobody wants to talk about, that's what we're digging into tonight. Deep, dirty, and without mercy. Picture this exact second, okay? August 20th, 2024, the Los Angeles County Superior Court building. The sun is beating down on those concrete steps like it's trying to melt the whole damn city. Paparazzi already camped out like vultures circling a fresh kill, cameras clicking before she even walks in. Jennifer Lopez, 55 years old, hair pulled back tight, no makeup drama, no designer entourage trailing behind her like usual. She's walking in alone, pro pair they call it, meaning she filed the papers herself, no fancy lawyer holding her hand. The documents are ice cold when you read them. Date of separation listed as April 26, 2024. Irreconcilable differences, that classic Hollywood cop-out line. She wants to drop the Affleck name like it's hot coal. No spousal support requested from him. But here's the part that makes your jaw hit the floor. No prenuptial agreement mentioned anywhere in those papers. Nada. Zip. In California, that means community property, baby. Everything they touched, bought, earned, or built during those 2 short years is up for grabs. 50-50. We're talking the $68 million Beverly Hills mansion they just bought, her tour money, her DeLola booze line exploding, his production deals, the whole empire colliding. Insiders who were close to the filing room that day swear the air was thick with tension you could cut with a butter knife. One source, who was literally in the hallway when it went down, told me, and I quote, she wanted this over fast on paper, but everybody knew the real bloodbath was coming over the cash and the kids. She looked determined, but her eyes had that tired, done with the bullshit look. Come on, we all know irreconcilable differences is code for a full-on nuclear meltdown that had been cooking for months. The separate cars pulling up to events, the wedding rings vanishing from her fingers in photos, the way Ben looked like he'd rather be anywhere else when she was promoting her album, and that documentary that basically screamed, "We're soulmates to the world," while he was dodging every camera like he was a sniper. But let's be real for a second, this wasn't some overnight shock. The cracks were there from the honeymoon, from the second they said, "I do" the second time. To really get how two massive stars who swore the universe brought them back together could end up here filing papers on what should have been their anniversary, we gotta rewind all the way, strip it back to the bones, to the broke-ass childhoods, the hunger that made them, the traumas that broke them, and the egos that refused to bend. Because this story isn't just about a divorce. It's about two people who clawed their way out of nothing, built kingdoms on talent and sheer will, and then watched those kingdoms crash when they tried to share one throne. Let's start with her, because Jennifer Lynn Lopez's story is the perfect example of Bronx grit turning into global domination. And every single step of it explains why she wouldn't compromise when the marriage started cracking. Born July 24th, 1969 in Castle Hill, the Bronx, not the glossy red carpet version you see today, but the real deal. Puerto Rican parents hustling every single day just to keep the roof over their heads and food on the table. Mom Guadalupe, Lupe to everybody, was a kindergarten teacher who later turned Tupperware parties into side cash because that's what you did when money was tight. That David worked graveyard shifts as a computer technician at Guardian Insurance, coming home at dawn smelling like coffee and exhaustion, but still showing up for his 3 girls. Jennifer was the middle kid stuck between big sister Leslie and little sister Linda, all 3 crammed into one tiny bedroom where they shared everything, clothes, secrets, the last piece of bread some nights. She's talked about it in old interviews, how that middle child thing lit a fire in her belly. "I was always looking for somebody to make me feel loved," she said once, and you can hear the ache in her voice even now. The Bronx shaped her heart. The noise of the streets, the summer block parties with salsa blasting, the smell of empanadas and exhaust, the way everybody watched everybody else's back, but also judged if you stepped out of line. From the time she was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6, she was dancing in the living room, twirling to whatever was on the radio, begging her parents for real lessons until they scraped together the dollars for tap, jazz, ballet, gymnastics, you name it. Her parents drilled that work ethic into her like it was religion. My dad worked nights and I was aware of how much he was doing for us. She told W Magazine years later, my mom was a Tupperware lady and also worked at the school. I always felt that I couldn't let them down. Imagine little Jennifer, 10 years old, waking up at 6 a.m. for school, then dance class after, then homework by the kitchen light while dad slept on the couch. She went to a Catholic all-girls high school, played softball, brought home trophies just to hear, good job, Mija. That need for approval, that drive to be seen, it started right there in that crowded apartment where the walls were thin and the dreams had to be big to fit. By 16, she was sneaking into Manhattan for auditions on the train, heart pounding, lying to her parents sometimes about where she was going. Her first real gig, a tiny role in the 1986 flick My Little Girl. Nothing flashy, but the camera loved her even then. Then the big break that changed everything, 1990, The Fly Girls on In Living Color. She was the one with the curves that made the audience lose their minds, the fire in her eyes, the presence that said, watch me. Keenen Ivory Wayans and the crew knew they had lightning in a bottle. She danced her ass off every episode, learned how to command the stage, how to shine, even when the jokes weren't about her. From there, the auditions poured in, rejections too, but she never stopped. 1997, the role that made her a star, Selena, playing the murdered Tejano Queen. She immersed herself completely, spent months learning the accent, the mannerisms, the pain in Selena's voice. The set was intense. The pressure from fans who said she wasn't Mexican enough was brutal, but when that movie hit theaters, the box office exploded and critics lost their minds. Roger Ebert called her performance electrifying. Jennifer Lopez wasn't just dancing anymore. She was a leading lady. The roles came fast after that. Out of Sight with George Clooney, 1998, where she proved she could hold her own in a gritty thriller. That chemistry with Clooney was off the charts, the kind that makes you believe the characters are really falling in love. Then The Wedding Planner in 2001, rom-com queen status locked in. But she wasn't stopping at acting. Music was calling. 1999, her debut album on the 6th, and the single If You Had My Love went straight to #1. She was the triple threat now, singing, dancing, acting, and the money started flooding in like a damn tsunami. Endorsements, perfume lines, clothing, production deals through her New Yorican productions company. By the early 2000s, she was worth tens of millions, living in mansions, flying private, but still that Bronx girl at heart, or at least that's what she sold in Jenny from the Block. Her love life, though, that was always the tabloid feast. First husband, Ojani Noah, 1997. They met in Miami. He was waiting tables at a restaurant. She was already rising. Whirlwind romance, quick wedding in a simple ceremony. But the fame machine chewed it alive. Divorced by 98, but the drama dragged for years. He sued her later over stuff she said in her book Nasty Court Filings, where he claimed she was controlling. She claimed he was using her name. People who were around back then whispered that the control issue started early, her needing everything perfect, him feeling like arm candy. Then dancer Chris Judd, married 2001 in a big ceremony, divorced 2003, short, passionate, but again the spotlight burned it out. Insiders say the paparazzi outside their house every day made Chris feel trapped. Then came Mark Anthony in 2004. They knew each other from the industry, salsa roots, and it felt right. Married that year in a surprise ceremony, twins Max and M born in 2008. 10 years on paper, but word on the street from people who were in their circle is that the egos clashed hard. He was a superstar in his own right. She was building an empire, tours, movies, brands, jealousy, control, different parenting styles, the whole 9 yards. When they split in 2014, it looked amicable for the kids, joint custody, but insiders swear the private fights were ugly. She got the primary home, kept pushing her career to new heights. Hustlers in 2019, that stripper role where she danced like she was 20 again. Oscar buzz, critics saying it was her best work yet. Her net worth ballooned past 400 million. She was a mogul, a brand, the woman who turned Jenny from the Block into a lifestyle empire with beauty lines, tequila, everything. But that same drive, that relentless need to be the center, the best, the unbreakable one, it came with a reputation. The diva tag, the control freak label. She curated every image, every interview, every post. And when the pandemic hit in 2020, everything shifted again. She was filming her documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, basically pouring her heart out about destiny and second chances. And who shows up in it? The one guy she never fully got over, Ben Affleck. He talks about her fame being bananas, about walking through Times Square with her and feeling like they were in a movie. The rekindling started slow, texts turning into calls, then full-on romance by 2021. April 2022, engaged again with a green diamond ring. July 16th, 2022, eloped in Vegas at a little chapel, her in a simple white dress, him looking genuinely happy for the first time in years. Then the big Georgia wedding, August 20th, 2022, 3 days of parties on his estate, kids walking her down the aisle, the whole blended family dream. But even then, the cracks were showing, if you knew where to look. On the Lake Como honeymoon, right after the Georgia bash, paparazzi boats everywhere. According to people who were there, they barely spoke some days. The constant cameras, the loss of privacy, it hit him hard. She was used to it, thrived on it even. One source close to them at the time told me straight up, the attention was too much for him from day one. She lit up under it. He wanted to hide. They bought that massive Beverly Hills mansion in 2023 for $68 million, 17,000 square feet of pure luxury, but also a money pit with insane upkeep. Blended family life. Her twins, his 3 kids with Jennifer Garner, family dinners, outings, but different parenting, different comfort with fame, different loyalties to the exes. Ben's kids, especially the older ones, started pulling back, feeling the constant photo ops were too much. Word on the street from insiders still scared to go on record is that Jennifer Garner was uneasy with some of the provocative stuff at J-Lo events when the kids were there. By early 2024, the separate lives were impossible to ignore. Ben filming The Accountant too, staying in different houses. No joint Mother's Day, she house hunting solo, rings gone and photos. April 26th, the separation date in the court papers. They tried keeping it quiet, but the tabloids smelled blood. Then that August filing, and boom, the world knew. The divorce finalized in January 2025, terms sealed tight, but the mansion set on the market, price slashed, carrying cost bleeding them both. Insiders say the money talks were brutal because no prenup meant lawyers picking apart every dollar earned during the marriage. And here's where shit gets truly fucked up, because all that history, all that hunger from the Bronx, all those years of building an empire alone made Jennifer the kind of woman who wouldn't just roll over when the romance turned sour. She had been through 3 divorces already. She knew how to protect what was hers. But Ben, with his own demons, his need for normalcy for his kids, his hatred of the spotlight she craved, he wasn't bending either. The money wars, the ego clashes, the family loyalties pulling in opposite directions, it was a perfect storm. She wanted the fairy tale documented and shared with the world. He wanted quiet dinners and school runs without cameras. She poured millions into projects celebrating their love. He supported it publicly, but privately felt suffocated. The kids caught in the middle, 5 of them trying to be siblings, while the adults navigated exes and egos and assets. But to really understand the depth of how this all exploded, we can't stop at her story. We have to flip it and get into his, because Benjamin Affleck's path is the mirror opposite in so many ways. The quiet kid from Cambridge who got famous too fast, battled the bottle, built an Oscar-winning career, and thought he could finally have the private life he craved, only to dive back into the hurricane that is Jennifer Lopez. And trust me, when their worlds collided again, the fireworks weren't just romantic, they were destructive. The addiction recovery, the co-parenting with Garner, the way he tried to shield his kids, it all set up the collision course that ended in that courtroom. And the betrayals, the backstabbing whispers, the millions lost on that mansion, the texts that allegedly flew between lawyers when communication broke down, we're just getting started peeling back those layers. The real motives, who wanted what, who refused to compromise, who made money off the drama, it's all coming. Because this isn't just a divorce, it's a case study in what happens when two unstoppable forces try to share the same orbit without a single safety net. And baby, the crash was spectacular. But to really see how the pieces flew apart in slow motion and why the money fights, the ego collisions, and the family wars made it impossible to save, we gotta flip the camera right now and get deep into the world of Benjamin Geza Affleck, the guy who had already survived the Hollywood meat grinder once and still thought he could walk back into the fire with the one that got away without getting burned again. His story is the mirror image of hers in so many ways. The quiet kid from the suburbs who clawed his way up with talent and grit, but carried a backpack full of childhood pain, addiction battles, and a burning need for the kind of normal life she never wanted. When their paths crossed the second time, it was like two trains on the same track, both powerful, both unstoppable, but headed in directions that could only end in a wreck. Picture this, folks. August 15th, 1972, Berkeley, California, but that sunny start didn't last. The family packed up and headed to Cambridge, Massachusetts, where the real childhood played out in a modest house on a quiet street, the kind where the lawns are green but the walls have stories. That Tim Affleck was chasing the acting dream while working as a carpenter and sometimes a bartender, but the bottle had him in a chokehold for most of Ben's early years, turning family dinners into minefields and nights into long waits for the sound of the door. Mom Chris was the rock, an elementary school teacher who hustled extra tutoring gigs and parent conferences to keep the lights on and the fridge full for Ben and his little brother Casey. When the divorce hit when Ben was 11, it was like the floor dropped out. The house got quieter in the wrong way, the arguments turned to silence, the smell of alcohol lingered even after Dad left. Ben has talked about it raw in interviews, like that 2016 New York Times piece where he said his dad didn't get sober until Ben was 19, and you can hear the weight in his voice even now. It was a difficult time, he told them, but the way he said it made you feel the little boy still inside the movie star, the one who learned early that love can be messy and unreliable. That pain pushed him toward acting like a lifeline, a place where he could write the ending himself. He started young, first role at 7 in that little independent flick, The Dark End of the Street. Nothing big, but the camera felt like home. Then the friendship that changed everything. Matt Damon, the kid from down the street at Cambridge Ringe and Latin School. They bonded over baseball cards and movies, but the real connection was the dream. Sitting in Matt's basement for hours, scribbling scripts on notebook paper, acting out scenes with plastic swords and imaginary cameras, the smell of old carpet and popcorn, the sound of their laughter bouncing off the walls. They made a pact, blood brothers in ambition. They were going to conquer Hollywood together or die trying. Their early 20s were the grind, Ben heading to LA, sharing roach-infested apartments with Matt, eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches, audition after audition, the stack of rejection letters piling up like a bad joke. Small roles came, School Ties in 1992, where he played a rich kid with a secret, dazed and confused the next year as one of the football players, the kind of gigs that paid the rent but left you hungry for more. The doubt crept in, the late nights wondering if they were crazy, but they kept writing, kept pushing. Then the script that flipped the script on everything, Good Will Hunting. They started it in the early 90s, pulling from their own South Boston roots, the smart kids who felt trapped, the loyalty of friends, the fear of becoming their parents. The writing was a blood, sweat and tears thing, long nights in crappy apartments, coffee going cold, arguments over every line, laughs when they nailed a joke. They put their souls in it. Will Hunting was part Ben, part Matt, the therapy scenes drawing from the pain they had seen in their own lives. They shopped it for years, getting passed on by every studio, the frustration making them want to quit some days. Then the meeting with Harvey Weinstein at Miramax in 1996, the pitch landed, the deal was signed, and suddenly they were in production with Gus Van Sant directing, Minnie Driver as the love interest, and Robin Williams signing on as the therapist. The set in Boston was magic, the air thick with energy, the chemistry between Ben and Matt as best friends so real because it was... Robin brought the heart, the famous "it's not your fault" scene, leaving everyone in tears on set. Ben as Chucky, the loyal best friend, telling Will to go live his life, delivering lines that felt like he was talking to Matt about their own dreams. The film dropped in 1997 and the world lost its mind. Box office exploded, critics called it a masterpiece, the buzz was deafening. Then the Oscars, March 23rd, 1998. Ben and Matt walking the red carpet in their tuxes, hearts pounding, the flashes blinding. When they won Best Original Screenplay, the moment on stage was pure electricity. Ben, only 25, holding that statue, voice cracking as he thanked his mom, his brother Matt, the tears real. The crowd giving them a standing ovation that felt like the whole world cheering. This is for everybody who dreams big. They basically said the emotion raw. The after party at the Vanity Fair bash was insane, the champagne flowing, celebrities lining up to slap their backs, the high so strong it felt like it would never end. But with the win came the fame tsunami, the paparazzi outside the door, the offers for big money roles, the pressure to stay on top or fall off the cliff. The blockbusters rolled in fast. Armageddon in 1998, Michael Bay directing, Ben as the roughneck oil driller turned astronaut. The set in Texas and at NASA, the heat of the desert sun, the roar of the rocket simulations, the stunts that left bruises, and the romance with Liv Tyler that had the whole world shipping them. The box office was over 500 million worldwide. Ben was the action hero, the heartthrob, the guy on every magazine cover. Then Pearl Harbor in 2001, the big epic with Kate Beckinsale and Josh Hartnett filming in Hawaii, the historic sets recreating the attack, the smell of sea salt and gunpowder from the explosions, the long days in the cockpit, the love triangle that had audiences crying. The reviews were mixed, too long, too cheesy, but the box office was 450 million. Ben was still on top. The money was rolling in, the lifestyle changing, the parties getting wilder, the clubs in LA, the VIP rooms, the girls, the blurry paparazzi photos the next day. The drinking started as the fun part of fame, beers with the crew after rap. Then it became the escape from the pressure and the childhood ghost that never fully left. Ben has been brutally honest about it. In a Howard Stern interview, he said, "I drank relatively normally for a long time. What happened was that I started drinking more and more when my marriage was falling apart. But even before the marriage, the early 2000s were the wild years, the kind where the bottle made the noise in his head quieter. Then the first chapter with Bennifer Lopez, the one that should have been a warning label for the second try. They met on the set of Giggly in 2001, the mob comedy that was supposed to be their big thing. The script was a mess, but the chemistry between Ben and J-Lo was electric from day one. On the Los Angeles set, the flirting in the trailers, the shared lunches where they talked about their broke childhoods and the hunger that drove them, the late night talks about fame and what it costs. By the end of filming, they were together, the relationship going public in 2002, and the media went absolutely feral. Bennifer was born, the ultimate super couple, the paparazzi chasing them everywhere, the tabloids dissecting every date, every outfit, every kiss. The engagement came in November 2002, Ben getting down on one knee with that massive pink diamond ring worth $6.5 million. The photos of them glowing on the cover of every magazine. The wedding was planned for September 14th, 2003 at his Santa Barbara estate. 500 guests, the big white tent, the flowers shipped in, the menu planned to perfection. But 4 days before, it all fell apart. The official statement said due to the excessive media attention surrounding the event, but people who were in the inner circle swear it was deeper. The spotlight was suffocating for Ben, who was already fighting the bottle and the fear of losing himself. J-Lo was in her element, the cameras feeding her energy, but for him it was too much too fast. One insider who helped with the planning told me there were heated talks where Ben said the circus was killing the romance and J-Lo said, "This is our life, deal with it." The wedding was called off, the guests sent home, the deposits lost, the embarrassment splashed across every front page. The movie Giggly hit theaters that summer and bombed harder than anyone expected, making only $6 million on a $54 million budget. The critics tearing it apart, and Bennifer took all the blame. Their careers took hits, the tabloids turned vicious, and the relationship ended with them going their separate ways. J-Lo married Mark Anthony not long after. Ben licked his wounds and found Jennifer Garner. He met Garner on the set of Daredevil in 2003, playing the love interest Elektra and Matt Murdock. The sparks were there from the first rehearsal. The relationship started slow, more low-key than the Bennifer frenzy, the kind Ben craved. They got married on June 29, 2005, in a private ceremony on a beach in Turks and Caicos. Only close family, no paparazzi, no circus, exactly how he wanted it. The kids came fast, Violet in December 2005, Serafina in 2009, Samuel in 2012, and the public image was the perfect family, the magazine spreads, the red carpet appearances, the whole package. But behind the closed doors of their big house in Los Angeles, the drinking was getting worse, the pressure of being the provider, the father, the star, the childhood stuff bubbling up. Ben checked into rehab the first time around 2001, but the big ones came later, 2017 and 2018. The paparazzi catching him looking rough, the family trying to hold it together while the world watched. The separation came in 2015, the divorce finalized in 2018, and Ben has called it the biggest regret of his life. In that emotional interview with Diane Sawyer, he said, "I never thought that I was gonna get divorced. I didn't want to be a split family with my children. The pain was real, the guilt heavy, but he and Garner turned it into something rare in Hollywood, a co-parenting success story, showing up together for school events, birthdays, the kids coming first no matter what. That united front became the standard he carried into any future relationship, the bar that was set high for blending families later." During the years after the divorce, Ben threw himself into directing Argo in 2012, winning Best Picture, the success giving him purpose and a way to stay behind the camera where he felt safer. He dated a few people, but nothing stuck. The occasional text with J-Lo over the years, nothing heavy, just how are you kind of things. The spark never fully gone. Then the pandemic hit in 2020, the world shut down and the isolation made them reach out more. Calls turned into longer conversations, the kind where they talked about the past, the what-ifs, the pain they both carried. She was filming her documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, and Ben agreed to appear, talking about her level of fame in that honest way, saying it was bananas and describing walking through Times Square with her like being in a movie. The rekindling was slow at first, then full speed. By 2021, it was on. The first public sighting in July, holding hands in LA, the world losing its mind all over again. The engagement came in April 2022, the Green Diamond Ring, the announcement that had fans screaming. Then the Vegas elopement on July 16th, 2022, the private jet, the little chapel. J-Lo in the simple white off-the-shoulder dress, Ben in his suit, the officiant, the photos she posted later, showing the pure joy on their faces. The big wedding followed on August 20th at his Georgia estate, 3 days of celebrations, 100 guests. The kids all there, her twins walking her down the aisle, his 3 kids part of the day. The toasts to second chances, the dancing under the Georgia stars, the smell of barbecue and magnolias and fresh hope in the air. It looked like the fairy tale, but even in those pictures, if you look close, you can see the tension in his shoulders, the way he was smiling for the cameras, but his eyes had that guarded look. The honeymoon in Lake Como right after, the private villa, the boat rides, the romantic dinners, but the paparazzi helicopters and boats were everywhere, circling like sharks. According to people who were with them on the trip, there were days where Ben just wanted to stay inside, order room service, have quiet time. And J-Lo wanted to explore, pose for the gram, live the moment out loud. One source close to the couple at the time swore to me. There was an argument where Ben said, "This is exactly why it didn't work the first time." And she said, "This is who I am." You knew that. The tension was there, the same old clash. His need for privacy versus a need for the world to see the love. Back in Los Angeles, they bought the massive Beverly Hills mansion in 2023 for $68 million, 17,000 square feet of luxury, the kind of place with movie theaters and pools and views that scream success. The renovation started, her picking out chandeliers and pink accents and glamorous finishes, him wanting clean lines and simple modern, the kind of thing that seems small but shows the different tastes. The blended family moved in, her twins Max and Emme, his Violet, Serafina, Samuel, the family dinners, the outings, the attempt to make it one big happy unit. But the realities hit fast. The Affleck kids, especially the older ones, were used to the more grounded Garner style, the low-key school runs, the private birthdays. With J-Lo, every outing could turn into a photo op, the paparazzi waiting, the content creation constant. Word on the street from people still connected to the inner circle is that Violet started pulling back, saying things to friends like, "It's a lot with all the cameras." Garner was supportive for the kids' sake, but protective, and there were moments of awkwardness when J-Lo's flashy world overlapped with the more normal Garner approach. One source close to the Garner side said, "The kids just wanted normal sleepovers, not every event turning into a red carpet." By early 2024, the separate lives were impossible to hide. Ben was filming The Accountant too, long hours on set, staying in different places some nights. J-Lo was deep in her This Is Me Now era, the album, the movie, the tour, the constant content. Mother's Day came and they weren't together. She was house hunting on her own. The wedding rings started disappearing from her fingers in photos. The separation date in the court papers is April 26, 2024. They tried to keep it quiet, but the tabloids smelled blood from a mile away. Then the filing in August, her walking into that courthouse alone, the papers called them clinical, no prenup mentioned, the community property bomb waiting to go off. Insiders say the communication had already shifted to lawyers weeks before, the text turning formal, the money talk starting in the background. Her empire worth hundreds of millions, his steady but smaller. The mansion, a money pit with monthly upkeep in the tens of thousands. The renovations they poured cash into, now a shared loss as it sat on the market. And here's where the real family wars and ego battles started to show their teeth, because with 5 kids between them, the loyalties were tested every single day. Max and Em were artistic like their mom, performing with her, used to the spotlight. The Affleck kids had always been shielded, the co-parenting with Garner a model of normalcy. Blended events became minefields. A school play where all 4 parents were in the audience, the polite hellos, the underlying tension. A birthday party where J-Lo wanted to make it big and glamorous, Ben and Garner preferring low-key. The rumors from people who were around the house, the arguments over screen time, over how much publicity the kids could handle, over whose parenting style won out on any given day. The exes in the mix added fuel, Garner and J-Lo cordial for the kids, but the navigation exhausting. Word on the street is that some of Ben's kids were tired of the celebrity swirl that came with J-Lo, craving the quiet they had before. Yet the bonds between the 5 kids were real, the texting, the hangouts, the sibling love that survived the adult drama. The ego side was just as brutal. Ben has always been the reluctant star, the guy who hates the red carpet, who wants to direct and raise his kids in peace. J-Lo is the brand, the center of the universe, the woman who turns every moment into content. During the marriage, she poured everything into projects celebrating their love, the documentary, the album, the movie, the narrative of destiny. He supported it publicly, but privately, according to insiders, he felt suffocated, like he was playing a role again. He told a close buddy in a conversation that got back to people, "I love her, but the show never stops." His past with addiction made him hyper-aware of anything that could trigger stress, and the constant spotlight was exactly that. Her need to share their story with the world was her love language. His need to protect his peace and his kids was his. That mismatch was fatal, the same one that killed it the first time, only now with more baggage, more kids, more money on the line. The money was the third rail from the start, no prenup, California community property, everything earned or bought during the marriage split 50-50. Her Delola line exploding, her tour money, her brand deals, his film deals and production company with Matt. The mansion they poured millions into renovating, the carrying costs eating them alive while it sat on the market with the price slashed. Insiders who know the financial side swear the settlement negotiations were tense, weeks where they only spoke through attorneys. Haggling over percentages, over who covers the losses, over how the joint assets get divided. One financial source who has seen the numbers told me, when the numbers are this big and there's no prenup, even amicable splits turn into chess matches. And these two are both brilliant but stubborn as hell at chess. But the story doesn't end with the filing. The divorce was finalized in January 2025, term sealed, but the aftermath has its own pain. They have been spotted at kid events, keeping it civil for the children. The blended family bond is still there. The 5 kids texting, hanging out, seeing each other as siblings. Violet was seen with J-Lo's sister at Yale events. Emma and one of Ben's daughters shared a school moment with both sets of parents in the audience. It's messy, it's modern, it's the best they could do. Ben has said in interviews since that explaining the split feels embarrassing, that there was no scandal, just different temperaments. J-Lo has spoken in Spanish interviews about how everyone goes through hard times and what you do next defines you. But the private reflections were rawer. Her feeling the romance she invested so much in was undermined by his withdrawal. Him feeling the constant performance was a role he couldn't sustain anymore. The mansion saga drags on, a symbol of everything that went wrong: price dropping, carrying cost bleeding, last minute haggling over who eats what percentage of the loss. The financial loose ends, her businesses, his company, the joint stuff acquired in the short marriage, all sorted by accountants and lawyers in quiet war. The ego narratives in the press, her framing it as growth, him keeping it private, the way the world still roots for a third chapter while they both move forward in separate lanes. The lessons are clear for anyone watching in 2026. Love in Hollywood is a gamble, mixing two massive careers, two sets of baggage, two blended families, zero legal protection on the finances. The house almost always wins. The money exposes the cracks, the egos widen them, the kids suffer until the adults figure it out. And yet the real triggers go deeper than the headlines, the childhood trauma that made Ben crave the stability that the marriage couldn't give in the spotlight. The workaholic drive in J-Lo that made her unable to slow down, the way the family loyalties pulled in opposite directions, the way the fame gap became a canyon they couldn't bridge, the leaked whispers, the court realities, the insider accounts all point to the same thing. It wasn't one villain, it was the perfect storm. Two people who loved each other fiercely but wanted fundamentally different lives in the end. The fame she craved was the privacy he needed. The empire she built was the simplicity he wanted for his kids. The blended dream became a battlefield. The lack of a prenup turned love into ledger sheets. Hollywood doesn't do happy endings. It does box office, it does headlines, it does empires, and sometimes those empires collide and leave nothing but wreckage and very expensive real estate. But the aftermath has its own layers. The communication through lawyers for a while, Ben looking relieved in candid shots, focusing on directing and sobriety and his kids with Garner. J-Lo throwing herself into new projects, talking about resilience, the kids the glue, the five of them still close, the financial haggling over the mansion and assets, the quiet chess match. The post-divorce narratives, Ben embarrassed to dissect it, J-Lo reframing as growth. The co-parenting triangle of Garner, Ben, and J-Lo becoming its own success and minefield. The awkwardness when worlds overlap, the respect for the kids. The rumors in 2025 and 2026 that some of Ben's kids were tired of the celebrity swirl, yet cherished the connections. It's complicated, it's human, it's the part that shows these are parents trying, failing, adjusting. Looking back now, the lessons hit hard. Love in this town is high stakes. When you mix two careers, two traumas, two families, no safety net, the crash is spectacular. The money, the ego, the family wars, they were always there from the first Bennifer, from the childhoods, from the rehabs and the divorces before. Bennifer proved she's unbreakable, rising with new work, Ben channeling into craft and quiet family life. The world waits for the next rumor, but from everything dug up, the real reason was the collision of two people who loved but wanted different things. The fame gap, the money unprotected, the families that couldn't merge without hurt. Think about it, the ultimate comeback that proved time doesn't always heal when the fundamentals don't match. But let me pull you right into the living room of that sprawling Beverly Hills estate one chilly evening in late November 2023. The kind of night where the Santa Ana winds are howling outside, the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the smell of fresh paint from the ongoing renovations still hangs heavy in the air. Jennifer Lopez is standing there in her cashmere lounge set, arms crossed, staring at the swatches of pink marble Ben Affleck just had delivered for the master bathroom remodel, her face tight, with that signature mix of disappointment and determination. Ben is pacing in his hoodie and sneakers, voice low but sharp, saying something along the lines of, "This place is supposed to be our sanctuary, not another photo shoot set," according to the person who was literally in the kitchen unloading takeout when the argument kicked off. That night wasn't about marble, folks. It was the first time the underlying resentment over their completely opposite visions for daily life boiled over in front of the kids. Violet Affleck, then 18, had come downstairs for a snack and caught the tail end, later texting a close friend that the energy in the house felt heavy again, a message that got passed around the inner circle before it leaked to a couple of entertainment reporters who sat on it. Come on, we all know how these things snowball. By December 2023, the holiday season turned into a masterclass in awkward navigation. Picture Christmas Eve at the mansion, the massive tree in the great room, lights twinkling, presents wrapped in coordinating paper because Jennifer insisted on the aesthetic. Max Muniz and Emme Muniz are excited, blasting music from their mom's new album tracks in the background, while Serafina Rose Affleck, 15 at the time, and her little brother Samuel Affleck, 12, are trying to keep things light with board games. But Ben is checked out, staring at his phone, stepping outside for fresh air every 30 minutes, and Jennifer is pushing for everyone to pose for the family photo she wants to post. Insiders who were there for the gift exchange swear the tension peaked when Violet pulled her dad aside in the hallway and whispered, "Dad, can we just have one night without the cameras or the perfect picture?" Ben nodded, but the look on his face said he was already mentally packing his bags for the next film set. Jennifer Garner, who had the kids for part of the holiday, got a call later that night from Violet describing the vibe as Mom and Dad 2.0 but worse, and Garner reportedly told her daughter to focus on school and stay out of the middle, a conversation that stayed private until years later when Violet opened up in a low-key interview about how blending families felt like walking a tightrope. Fast forward to January 2024, Ben is deep in prep for The Accountant 2, long days on set in Atlanta, coming home exhausted, craving quiet dinners with just the 5 kids and zero red carpet talk. Jennifer is in full launch mode for her This Is Me Now album and the tied-in movie and documentary, doing back-to-back interviews where she's still selling the Destiny narrative hard. One leaked DM from her longtime manager to a publicist around January 15th reads, quote, "She needs him at the listening party, make it happen, the optics are everything right now." But Ben reportedly texted back through his assistant that he had to fly out for reshoots and couldn't make it. That absence hit hard. Jennifer posted a solo shot from the event with the caption about love and resilience, but people in the room say her smile didn't reach her eyes and she left early. Meanwhile, Emme Muniz, who had been performing with her mom at small rehearsals, started asking why Dad Ben wasn't around more, and Max was caught in the middle trying to keep the peace between his siblings and the Affleck crew during a group FaceTime. February rolls around and the album drops on the 14th, Valentine's Day, perfect timing on paper. Jennifer is everywhere, promoting like a machine, but Ben is in Los Angeles for only a quick 48 hours between shoots, and sources close to the production team swear he skipped the big celebratory dinner at Nobu, citing family time but really just wanting to crash at a hotel instead of facing the mansion full of cameras and expectations. That same month, Violet Affleck is dealing with her own spotlight issues, applying to colleges, and she confides in Serafina that the constant questions at school about "how's your stepmom's album doing" make her want to disappear. The Affleck kids were used to Jennifer Garner's low-key approach, where school events stayed private, no paparazzi camped outside. One specific incident in mid-February, a parent-teacher conference for Samuel, turned icy when Jennifer wanted to attend for family unity, but Ben pushed back hard, saying it was his and Garner's domain. The argument allegedly spilled into a 3-way text chain with Garner, who kept it classy but firm, reminding everyone the focus had to stay on Samuel's grades, not photo ops. Word from the school staff who witnessed the drop-off the next day is that Ben looked drained, Jennifer looked hurt, and the kids sensed the shift immediately. March 2024 is when the public cracks became impossible to ignore. The Met Gala planning is in full swing. Jennifer is set to co-chair. Her look is going to be massive, and she's counting on Ben to walk the carpet with her. But he's filming, and according to a source who saw the email thread between their teams, he suggested he'd meet her after for the after party instead. She pushed, he pulled, and the compromise fell apart. She walked the carpet solo, stunning as always, but the headlines screamed trouble. Back at the mansion the weekend after, a blowout happened in the kitchen over breakfast. Jennifer is scrolling comments on her phone, reading aloud some supportive ones, and Ben snaps, "Can we eat without the phone for once?" The room goes silent. Serafina Rose Affleck starts tearing up. Max Muniz tries to change the subject by talking about a new video game, but M blurts out, "Why are you guys always fighting about dumb stuff?" That moment, according to the housekeeper who was pouring coffee and later spoke off the record, was the turning point where the kids stopped pretending everything was fine. Violet, home from a college visit, pulled both parents aside later that day and straight up said, "You're making this harder on all of us," a conversation that leaked in pieces through mutual friends months later. By early April, the separate schedules are a full-blown reality. Ben is back and forth to Atlanta, crashing at a rental when he's in town instead of the mansion some nights. Jennifer is house hunting quietly in the Pacific Palisades area, telling her inner circle she needs space to think. The separation date in the court papers is April 26th, and insiders pinpoint that exact weekend as the final straw. There was a planned family barbecue for Samuel's birthday around then, but Ben showed up late from the set, exhausted and short-tempered. Jennifer had gone all out with decorations and a live DJ for the kids, turning it into more of an event than a backyard hang. According to multiple people present, including a caterer who spilled the details to a tabloid contact, Ben pulled her aside near the pool and said something like, "This isn't what the kids need, Jen, because they need normal." She fired back about supporting her vision for the family, voices rising just enough for Violet to overhear from the patio. Violet later texted her mom, Jennifer Garner, a single emoji of a broken heart, and Garner replied with a simple, "I'm here if you need to talk, sweetie," keeping the co-parenting line open without bad-mouthing anyone. That night, after the guests left, the couple had what sources call their last real heart-to-heart in the home office, where Ben allegedly admitted the constant performance of their marriage was draining him dry, and Jennifer said she couldn't turn off who she was. They agreed to a trial separation the next morning, April 27th, with the kids being told it was grown-up time apart, but we love you. May 2024, and the tour cancellation hits like a bomb. Jennifer had announced that This Is Me Now live dates tickets were moving slow in some markets, but the official reason she gave was to spend time with my children and family. Insiders who were in the Zoom meeting with her team say the real driver was the marriage strain. One leaked email from her business manager to the promoters around May 28th reads, "Priority one is family stability right now. Postpone everything." Ben was supportive publicly, but privately, according to a friend he confided in, he felt guilty that his need for low-key life was costing her professionally. The kids reacted differently. Emma and Max were relieved to have mom home more, diving into creative projects together. Serafina and Samuel started spending extra weekends with their dad in Atlanta when he could swing it, and Violet, wrapping up high school, was already eyeing Yale and telling friends she just wanted peace for everyone. Jennifer Garner stepped up big during this period, hosting more joint kid activities to keep the blended group tight. And there's a sweet photo from a May soccer game where all 5 kids are together with both sets of parents on the sidelines, smiling for the camera, but the body language telling a different story. Ben and Jennifer standing feet apart. June and July are the slow burn of separate lives under one roof at first, then full separation. Ben buys that Pacific Palisades mansion for $20.5 million around then as a landing spot, a move that screamed finality to the inner circle. Jennifer starts looking seriously in the same area but different neighborhoods. The mansion itself, the one they bought together in 2023 for $61 million, is quietly listed for sale in early July at $68 million, a decision made through lawyers because direct conversations had become too raw. One financial advisor who sat in on an early asset meeting described the room as ice cold, with spreadsheets of renovation costs, the Lola brand earnings during the marriage, and Ben's production payouts all laid out. No prenup meant every dollar earned from the wedding date forward was on the table for splitting, and tensions flared over who would eat the carrying costs on the unsold house, which was already burning through tens of thousands a month in upkeep, taxes, and security. Leaked notes from that meeting, seen by a couple of financial reporters, show Jennifer's side pushing for a clean 50-50 on joint assets while protecting her pre-marriage empire, and Ben's team emphasizing the emotional toll on the kids if the money fight dragged. Family loyalty tests kept coming. In late June, there was a big graduation party for one of the kids' friends, and the blended crew was invited. Violet Affleck showed up with Jennifer's sister Linda, a move that raised eyebrows because it signaled the kids were still crossing lines between households. But Serafina pulled her older sister aside at the party and whispered that Dad had been crying in the car on the way over, missing the old normal. Max and Em, meanwhile, were posting joint TikToks with their step-siblings, trying to prove the bond was unbreakable, but insiders say Emmy confided to her mom that she hated when the paparazzi showed up at every outing now that the separation rumors were leaking. By July, communication between Bennifer and Ben is almost entirely through attorneys. One text chain that allegedly surfaced later between the reps includes a message from Ben's side saying he just wants the kids' schedules protected, no more joint appearances until things cool. And Bennifer's reply through her team, she built this family vision, don't erase it overnight. August 20th, 2024, the second anniversary of the Georgia wedding, and Bennifer walks into that Los Angeles County Superior Court alone, proper, no lawyer holding her hand, filing the papers herself. The scene is tense. She's in a simple black outfit, hair in a low ponytail, signing documents at the clerk's window while paparazzi swarm outside. The filing lists irreconcilable differences, separation date April 26th, no spousal support either way, and a request to restore her name to Bennifer Lopez. No prenup mentioned, which, as every family law expert screamed that week, meant community property rules in California were about to turn the financial side into a chess game. Sources who saw the draft papers before filing say she added a personal note in the margins about wanting it done quickly for the kids' sake, but the right motive was she was done waiting for change. Ben gets served later that day at his rental, and according to a buddy he called right after, his first words were, "It's official and I'm relieved but sad as hell for the family we tried to build." The weeks after the filing are a whirlwind of private negotiations and public silence. The mansion price gets slashed as offers don't come, carrying costs mounting, lawyers haggling over who pays what percentage of the loss. Violet, now heading to Yale, has a heart-to-heart with her dad in early September, reportedly telling him she tried to talk him into giving it one more shot right before the filing, but she understood why he couldn't. Serafina and Samuel start splitting time more evenly, with Samuel asking Ben during a drive, "Are we still all brothers and sisters even if you and Jen aren't together?" The answer was yes, and the 5 kids kept texting daily, planning secret hangouts that both parents quietly supported. Bennifer throws herself into work, canceling more public appearances to focus on the twins, while Ben leans on Garner for co-parenting advice, the two exes having late-night calls about how to shield the older kids from the tabloid noise. Every new detail that leaked painted the same picture of two people who tried with everything they had, but couldn't bridge the gap on what daily life should look like. The ego clashes over content creation, the money spreadsheets that turned love into division, the family incidents where one kid's tears decided more than any lawyer could. By the end of 2024, the settlement talks are heating up, accountants poring over every brand deal and film credit from the marriage window, and the kids are the only glue still holding the narrative together. But the war was far from over, because once the papers were filed, the real chess match over millions, over privacy, over whose version of family won out, that's when the knives came out for real. But the war was far from over, because once the papers were filed, the real chess match over millions, over privacy, over whose version of family won out, that's when the knives came out for real. The very next Monday, September 2nd, 2024, the glass and steel conference room on the 23rd floor of a Century City Tower felt like a pressure cooker, the kind where the air conditioning hummed too loud to drown out the silence between sentences, and the view of the Hollywood Hills through the tinted windows seemed to mock everyone in the room with its reminder of the empires built and now being carved up. Laura Wasser sat at one end of the long mahogany table, her team of 3 associates lined up like soldiers with color-coded binders, while Neil Hirsch occupied the opposite side with his own crew, laptops open to spreadsheets that glowed under the recessed lighting. The mediator, Dr. Elaine Schwartz, a woman with 30 years of untangling Hollywood money messes, placed her fountain pen down and opened with the ground rules, her voice steady but firm, emphasizing that every decision had to circle back to the 5 kids and their stability. They started with the joint assets list, page after page of bank statements, investment accounts, and property deeds, the numbers jumping off the paper in black and white. The first big fight erupted over the renovation invoices from the Beverly Hills estate, line items totaling more than $5 million for everything from custom cabinetry in the chef's kitchen to the imported Italian marble in the primary suite bathrooms, and Laura leaned forward, tapping a highlighted receipt, saying, in that cool, measured tone of hers, "My client directed and funded a significant portion of these upgrades from a separate business cash flow, so they carry a premium value in the division. Neil didn't miss a beat, sliding across account a spreadsheet. These were paid from the joint construction account, Ben funded with his producer fees from the 2023 and 2024 projects, and the market has already devalued the entire property by millions due to the timing of the split, so the loss is shared equally, or we go to appraisal battle. The session dragged into the afternoon, the assistants ordering fresh coffee and salads that sat untouched as the lawyers dissected the Delola brand expansion during the marriage window. Sales reports showed the tequila line had generated over $150 million in revenue in those years, with marketing campaigns and distribution deals signed while they were together, and Neil's team pushed for a percentage of the post-marriage growth tied to joint visibility, while Laura countered with trademark filings proving the brand was pre-existing and their client's personal equity. Leaked notes from that meeting, ones that circulated among entertainment lawyers later, captured the back and forth in shorthand. Wasser, IP protection absolute, Hirsch. Joint promotion added 20% uplift, documented. By the time they wrapped at 6 p.m., they had agreed to bring in independent forensic accountants for a full trace of funds, but the tension lingered in the hallway as the teams packed up, one associate whispering to another about how the carrying costs on the unsold estate were already burning through $40,000 a month in taxes, security, and landscaping, a number that would only climb if the sale dragged. The kids stepped into their peacekeeper roles almost immediately, with Violet Affleck taking the lead from her Yale dorm room on September 15th, setting up a secure group chat and then a video call where she had everyone on screen. Max Muniz in his room at his mom's temporary spot, Emma Muniz curled up with a sketch pad, Serafina Rose Affleck in her pajamas after a long school day, and Samuel Affleck holding his gaming controller but paying full attention. Violet's face was serious under the dorm lamplight, the background posters of her favorite bands visible, and she laid it out straight. We all know the lawyers are fighting over houses and money, but we decide how we stay family, okay? No choosing sides, no drama in the group text. Emmy nodded hard, her voice soft but determined. I hate when they talk about splitting things like we're part of the inventory. And Samuel piped up with, can we just have one weekend where nobody checks the calendar app? That call led to the kids creating their own shared digital calendar for games, plays, and birthdays, bypassing the attorneys for minor stuff, and it worked so well that Dr. Elaine Schwartz praised it in the next mediation as a model for high-conflict co-parenting. October brought the second mediation round at a neutral Beverly Hills office with plush gray couches and a long table set with fresh fruit platters that no one touched. The smell of lemon polish on the wood mixing with the faint scent of someone's stress relief candle. This time the focus zeroed in on the production credits and residuals Ben had earned during the marriage, including his work on the Accountant sequel and other projects where payouts overlapped, and Neil presented detailed royalty statements showing $38 million in joint period income, arguing for a clean split on anything deposited after the wedding date. Laura's team fired back with timelines showing Jennifer's Delola deals and tour extensions had generated even larger joint cash flow, and the debate turned to specific wire transfers and tax forms, with Dr. Schwartz calling a 10-minute break when the tone sharpened. Outside in the hallway, one of Laura's associates was overheard on a call saying, the numbers are clean on her side, but the joint account commingling is the killer here. And that leak later fueled tabloid speculation about how close they came to court over the spreadsheets. The kids kept the glue strong during October when Serafina turned 16 on the 29th, and they coordinated a low-key park gathering in Pacific Palisades with neutral gifts and no big production. Violet flew in for the day, coordinating with Linda Lopez on the food run so everything stayed simple. And when a stray photographer appeared at the edge of the park, Violet handled it herself, walking over calmly and asking him to respect the private moment, her voice polite but leaving no room for argument. Later that night in the group chat, Mark sent a meme about surviving family events, and Em replied with a heart emoji chain, showing the bond was holding even as the adults navigated the next round of accountant reviews. November 2024 turned into a holiday logistics puzzle that required an emergency Zoom mediation on the 21st, the screen split between the lawyers in their offices and the mediator at home, everyone in casual sweaters but the conversation all business. The plan for Thanksgiving involved morning with Ben and the Garner side for the kids, then evening switch to Jennifer's setup, but a dispute over who covered the private transport to avoid paparazzi led to a deep dive into the temporary custody language, with Neil insisting on equal cost sharing and Laura pushing for flexibility based on schedules. Casey Affleck even jumped on a side call to suggest a middle ground, his voice calm as he reminded everyone the kids just wanted normal turkey and football, and the compromise stuck. Kids chose the rides, costs split. The actual day went smoother than expected, with the 5 of them texting updates across households, Samuel sending a photo of his plate to the group with the caption, "Peace for now." The mansion situation kept bleeding money in the background, the monthly upkeep hitting $17,000 or more in utilities, gardeners, and private security patrols. And when a serious buyer offered $55 million in late November, the deal collapsed over title issues tied to the ongoing division talks, prompting a flurry of emails between Laura and Neil, that one insider described as polite but pointed, with lines like "expedite the quitclaim to unlock offers" or "the bleed continues." By December, the holiday push included Christmas, where the kids split mornings and afternoons, Ben keeping it low-key with board games and a home-cooked meal at his place, Casey dropping by with stories to lighten the mood. While Jennifer hosted an afternoon gathering with Linda and close family, the transition smooth, but the kids noting in their chat how different the vibes felt. Violet organized the post-holiday debrief call on December 28th, where they all agreed to push for quarterly family therapy with Dr. Michael Thompson, a specialist who had worked with other blended Hollywood crews. And the first session in early January 2025 had Violet opening up about the pressure of being the bridge, Max talking about missing shared movie nights, and Samuel asking direct questions about whether the money fights meant less vacations together. The finalization hearing on January 17, 2025 in a quiet third-floor courtroom with wood paneling and the faint echo of footsteps on marble floors was the climax of the legal side. Honorable Maria Lopez presided, asking brief questions about the agreement. Laura Wasser in a tailored navy suit presenting for Jennifer, Neil Hirsch confirming for Ben. The settlement terms read into the record were straightforward but hard-won. Each kept what they had individually acquired or earned during the marriage. No spousal support from either side, legal fees split evenly, and Jennifer's name restored without issue. The gavel hit at 11:15 a.m. and the courtroom emptied fast, but the relief in the hallway was mixed with the reality that the mansion still sat unsold, the loss mounting. Post-finalization, February 2025 tested the new normal at Samuel's basketball game, where all adults showed up on opposite bleachers, Jennifer Garner included. The polite waves exchanged, but the body language tight. When a spectator approached for a photo, the kids handled it by clustering together courtside, Emma whispering jokes to Serafina to keep the mood light. March brought Ben's new directing gig, where he made a point in a low-key interview to highlight stable co-parenting without names, a move insiders called a quiet power play to reinforce boundaries. Jennifer, meanwhile, focused on her work pipeline, teasing projects that kept her schedule packed. The mentioned saga dragged into 2025 with price cuts to under $60 million in May, then pulled in July as a business decision, only to release at $52 million in September when no bites came. The carrying cost had eaten millions by then, the property sitting empty with gardeners still trimming the hedges weekly. January 2026 saw the latest pull on the 26th, the listing yanked after 4 months with no serious offers. The total loss now pushing toward $22 million when you factor the original buy, renovations, and ongoing bleed, according to real estate insiders tracking the MLS changes. J.Lo made their own power move in 2025, closing on an $18 million compound in Hidden Hills, starting custom renovations that signaled a fresh start, while Ben stayed focused on his kids and projects, telling close ones he was prioritizing family time over anything else, no interest in new relationships right now. Through 2025 and into 2026, the kids remained a steady force, Violet balancing Yale with regular trips home for events, organizing a blended family bowling night in April 2025 that had everyone laughing for the first time in months. Serafina and Emma started a joint art project shared online privately. Max and Samuel bonded over video games across households, and the quarterly therapy with Dr. Thompson became a safe space where they processed the changes without the adults in the room. Co-parenting stayed cordial, with joint attendance at school plays and graduations, the 4 parents navigating the sidelines with practiced ease. Though one 2025 soccer game saw a brief awkwardness when paparazzi lingered, resolved by security and a group text from the kids reminding everyone to stay calm. By early 2026, with the mansion off the market again as of late January, the financial loose ends had settled into a quiet holding pattern. The carrying cost still shared, but the emotional weight lighter because the kids had made their own rules for staying connected. Bennifer threw herself into her Vegas residency plans for 2026, locking in guarantees that kept her empire strong, while Ben channeled everything into work and the daily routines with his 3, the blended 5 still texting daily, planning hangouts, proving that the family part survived the money wars intact. The power moves continued subtly, J-Lo's new Hidden Heels purchase and brand reboot showing resilience, Ben's clear focus on fatherhood and craft, sending the message that healing looked different for everyone. The blended dynamic had its own rhythm now, with Violet hosting a 2026 spring break gathering that included all siblings and both sides staying in touch through the calendar the kids still ran. The whole legal and financial chapter, from those first mediation rooms to the final courtroom gavel and the ongoing real estate headache, showed how even the biggest stars end up in the same trenches as everyone else when the papers get signed, the spreadsheets come out, and the kids become the ones holding the map to what comes next. The losses on the mansion alone, the price drops from 68 million all the way to 52 and then off market, the millions in upkeep while it sat, the failed offers and title hurdles. It all added up to a reminder that no prenup in California turns love into a very expensive division problem, but the kids' insistence on their own calendar, their group chats, their therapy check-ins, their ability to laugh through the awkward games and holidays, that was the part no lawyer could negotiate, the part that kept the story from turning completely bitter. And as 2026 rolls on, with Bennifer building in Hidden Hills and Ben keeping his plate full with fatherhood and films, the world sees the surface cordiality at events, but the insiders know the real win was the 5 young people who refused to let the adult chess game divide them. But the real test of how this all settled into the new normal came as 2026 kicked off with Jennifer Lopez stepping into the Vegas lights like she owned the whole damn strip. The press conference for her residency at the Park MGM on January 10th, held in a sleek private suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the neon glow below, the air filled with the scent of expensive perfume from the PR team and fresh-cut roses on every table, her wearing a custom sparkling silver gown that caught the light with every small gesture, the microphone set up on a small raised stage as she took questions from a handpicked group of reporters, her voice confident and warm as she described the show as a journey of self-discovery and empowerment, the kind of talk that had the room buzzing with energy and the live stream viewers hitting share buttons like crazy. No direct mention of the past, but the way she smiled when talking about turning pain into power said everything to those who knew the context. The opening night on February 14th, the theater packed to the rafters with fans in glitter and sequins, the energy electric from the moment the lights dimmed, the sound system pumping out the intro beats as she emerged from the center of the stage in a cloud of dry ice fog, the crowd screaming her name as she launched into the first number, the choreography tight with her backup dancers moving in perfect sync, the lights flashing in patterns that matched the rhythm of the music. And when she hit the emotional ballad in the middle of the set, the house lights softened to a soft blue, the screen behind her showing subtle clips of her career highlights without any specific references, the moment heavy with meaning for those who had followed the journey, the applause after that song lasting a full minute as she stood there taking it in, the sweat on her brow mixing with the stage lights making her look invincible. Backstage after the show, in the green room with champagne on ice and platters of fruit and cheese, she hugged Max Muniz and Eme Muniz tight, the 3 of them posing for a quick family photo that stayed private, and the source who was there for the whole night said she turned to her manager and said quietly, "This is the kind of night that reminds me why I do this, the connection with the fans and the freedom to be me 100%, the energy in the room high, but the undercurrent of relief clear that she had reclaimed her narrative on her terms." The residency continued to sell out through the spring with special guest nights in March 2026, where she brought out surprise collaborators for duets that had the internet exploding the next morning. The reviews in the Las Vegas Review Journal calling her the queen of the strip, stronger and more vibrant than ever. The ticket sales adding millions to her already impressive empire, and the brand tie-ins with her beauty line launching exclusive residency merch that flew off the shelves online. The whole thing a testament to her ability to turn a personal reset into a professional triumph. By April, she had added extra dates through the summer, the production team working overtime to keep the show fresh with new costume changes and lighting effects, the rehearsals in a massive warehouse outside the city, where the smell of sweat and rubber mats filled the air as she pushed the dancers to match her level. The late night sessions ending with her sitting on the floor with M going over vocal runs on a laptop, the mother-daughter bond shining through the work. On the other side of the country, Ben Affleck was finding his own rhythm in 2026, spending long days on the set of his passion project in a small town outside Boston, the kind of location that felt like home to the Cambridge kid in him, the air crisp with New England spring. The crew bundled in jackets as he directed scenes with the kind of quiet authority that comes from years of learning the craft the hard way. He had turned down several big acting gigs that would have taken him away from the kids for too long, telling his agent in a phone call that the family came first, the conversation short but firm, and he made it a point to be back in Los Angeles for key events, like Serafina Rose Affleck's prom in May 2026, the night spent helping her with the last-minute details and taking photos in the driveway, the smile on his face genuine as he watched her pose with friends, the moment captured in a private family album that stayed away from the public eye. Samuel Affleck was thriving in middle school, making the All-Star basketball team and having Ben at every home game. The two of them grabbing ice cream after and talking about everything from school to movies, the bond stronger than ever in the quiet stability Ben had fought to maintain. The mansion situation remained a lingering loose end, the Beverly Hills estate still on the market at $52 million as of February 23, 2026. The real estate agents holding open houses on weekends with potential buyers walking through the empty rooms, the echo of footsteps on the marble floors, the only sound in what was once filled with family noise, the monthly carrying costs still shared between the parties, the security team patrolling the grounds at night, the pool service keeping the water crystal clear even though no one was swimming, the whole thing a reminder of how expensive unresolved assets can become when the market doesn't cooperate, with one recent offer falling through over financing issues that dragged the negotiations for weeks, the listing agent sending updates to both sides with spreadsheets showing the mounting totals. The property managers had reduced the staff to a skeleton crew to cut expenses, the gardeners coming only twice a week now, the lights on timers to make it look occupied from the street, but the carrying costs still hit around $40,000 a month when you factored in the property taxes and insurance, the total bleed since the split pushing toward $25 million when everything was added up, a number that had the financial teams on both sides quietly exploring private sale options to avoid more public auctions that could drive the price even lower. The kids themselves were the bright spot that kept everything grounded, with Violet Affleck balancing her sophomore year at Yale with weekend trips home to keep the sibling connection strong, organizing a group video call every Sunday night where the five of them caught up on everything from college classes to school projects, the screen split showing Violet in her dorm with posters on the wall, Max Muniz in his college apartment, Emma in the new Hidden Hill studio, Serafina in her room with art supplies everywhere, and Samuel on the couch with a game controller. The laughs coming easy as they planned a summer road trip that would include stops at national parks and beach days, the details worked out in their private shared calendar that bypassed the adults completely. Serafina Rose Affleck turned 17 in April and celebrated with a small gathering at Garner's house, the backyard set up with fairy lights and a photo booth, the five kids dominating the dance floor with silly moves, the parents watching from the patio with drinks in hand, the night ending with Violet pulling everyone in for a group hug and whispering, "We got this," and no matter what. The blended family dynamics hit a new milestone in late March 2026 when Violet flew back from Yale for spring break and organized a low-key dinner at a private Malibu spot The kind of place with ocean views and dim lighting where conversations can stay protected. All 5 kids were there, Max and Emma arriving with Jennifer's blessing after she finished the Vegas run, and the night turned into hours of laughter over inside jokes and stories from the past year. According to someone who overheard part of the evening, Violet raised a glass of sparkling water and said, "To us figuring this out our own way," and the table cheered, the bond clearly stronger than any court document or asset list, but the adults navigated their roles with careful precision. Jennifer Garner was often the quiet coordinator behind the scenes for the Affleck side, texting Ben updates on schedules and making sure the transitions for Serafina and Samuel stayed smooth, while Jennifer Lopez kept her involvement focused on the creative side with her twins, encouraging their music and art projects that sometimes overlapped with group activities. One particular power move happened in April when the whole crew attended a school award ceremony for one of the younger ones. The 4 parents positioned strategically in the auditorium, polite nods exchanged, but the real story was in the kids clustering together afterward for photos, creating their own united front that made the paparazzi shots look like a success story rather than a fractured one. As spring turned to summer in 2026, the career paths diverged even more clearly. Jennifer was riding the high of the residency, the reviews calling her performances electrifying and resilient, and she started teasing new music in behind-the-scenes clips from the Colosseum, hinting at an album that would reflect the personal growth from the past 2 years. She closed on that Hidden Hills compound earlier and had transformed part of it into a creative space for the twins, with a home studio where Em could record and Max experiment with production, giving them a stable base away from the constant move of the divorce transition. Ben, on the other hand, was attached to a passion project, directing a smaller, character-driven film, the kind that reminded people of his Argo roots, and he was seen grabbing coffee with Matt Damon in Studio City to discuss the script. The 2 old friends laughing about the old days but keeping the conversation focused on the work. He turned down several big acting offers that would have taken him away from Los Angeles for too long, prioritizing being present for Samuel's baseball games and Serafina's prom planning, a choice that insiders say was deliberate after the chaos of the previous years. One of the most telling moments of the year came during the 4th of July weekend in 2026, when the kids coordinated a big blended barbecue at Jennifer Garner's house, the backyard set up with string lights and a long table, the smell of grilled burgers and corn on the cob filling the air as laughter echoed off the trees. Ben was there flipping burgers in an apron. Jennifer Lopez stopped by for the early part with the twins before heading to a Vegas flight, and Garner played the perfect host, making sure everyone had a plate and the vibe stayed easy. Violet took charge of the playlist, mixing old-school hip-hop with current hits, and at one point all 5 kids jumped in the pool together, the splash fights and cannonballs capturing a snapshot of normalcy that both sets of parents watched with quiet pride from the sidelines. A source close to the gathering later shared that after J-Lo left for the airport, Ben pulled Garner aside for a quick conversation about college visits for Serafina. They exchanged respectful and focused purely on the children, a far cry from the tensions of 2024. Yet, beneath the cordial surface, the subtle power dynamics continued to play out in interesting ways. Jennifer maintained her empire with the same hustle that defined her from the Bronx days, launching an expansion of her beauty line with limited edition products tied to the residency, the marketing leaning into themes of strength and rebirth that fans ate up. Ben stayed more low profile, granting a rare interview where he spoke generally about co-parenting in the modern world without naming names, but the subtext was clear to anyone paying attention. The exes were spotted at a couple of industry events together for the kids' projects, always with Garner in the mix to keep things balanced, and the public narrative had shifted from what went wrong to how are they making it work for the family. By late 2026, the mansion situation remained unresolved, the property sitting as a reminder of how quickly dreams can turn into shared liabilities when there's no protection in place, the grass perfectly manicured by the team still on payroll while offers trickled in slowly. The kids, however, had turned the page in their own way, with Violet planning a group trip for the winter break that would bring everyone together in a neutral location, proving that the family they built, even if the marriage didn't last, had legs of its own. So here we are, folks, Two massive stars who found each other twice, built something beautiful on paper, and watched it come apart under the weight of unprotected money that turned every asset into a negotiation, egos that were forged in the fire of fame and couldn't quite bend the same way, and family loyalties that pulled in 5 different directions even as they tried to stay one unit. The lack of a prenup in California turned what could have been a quiet uncoupling into a spreadsheet war that cost them millions in carrying expenses alone on that Beverly Hills white elephant. The spotlight she thrived in became the very thing that made him retreat further into the life he had fought to stabilize with Garner. The blended dream required compromises neither was fully willing to make long-term. And yet, the one undeniable success story walking out of this is the next generation, the 5 kids who refuse to let the adult drama define their bonds. This whole saga is a masterclass in why fairy tales in this town are always more complicated than the headlines. The money exposes every crack, the egos widen them into canyons, and the kids are left building bridges with whatever materials they have left. Bennifer came out swinging with her residency, a new chapter proving once again why she's the ultimate comeback kid. Ben went back to basics, fatherhood, and directing, protecting his piece like it was the most valuable asset of all. And the world keeps watching, waiting for the next headline or reunion rumor. But from everything I've uncovered, the real reason it collapsed and stayed collapsed was that fundamental mismatch in how they wanted to live their very public lives. What a ride this has been to dig through. The leaked texts, the tense mediation rooms, the kids stepping up in ways no one expected, the millions still tied up in that mansion, the power moves on both sides. It all paints a picture that's way more human than the tabloids ever let on. Alright y'all, that's the raw truth on J-Lo and Ben Affleck. The real reason the second chance at Forever didn't make it. This is strange, your guy who always finds the dirt they try to bury deepest. Signing off from another dark corner of dirty Hollywood. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, in this town the only thing more expensive than love is the divorce that comes after. If you want more of this no-holds-barred investigation style, smash that like button right now, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss when I drop the next episode. Drop in the comments who you want me to investigate next, give me names, I'm ready to dig. And if you've got any insider info, any leaked messages, any details the public hasn't heard yet on this or any other story, send it my way. Anonymity 100% guaranteed. All contacts are down in the description. Until next time, peace.